like to call Property Management Committee to order. First order of business, call the roll.
Commissioner Dodd.
Here.
Commissioner Davidson. Here. Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner Irvin.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Chairman McAdoo.
Here. Next on the agenda, approval of minutes, Vice Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes of the last meeting, and I find them to be in order, and I move to approve as written.
Motion to approve, I have a second. Second by Commissioner Davidson. All those in favor? Public comments. We have 8 that have signed up for public comments. And before we get started on public comments, I'm gonna make some announcements and on how basically we're gonna handle this. Number one, each one that come up, you have 3 minutes to speak. And we do have a timer, and when your 3 minutes is up, it will go off. So if at the end of the 8, I may ask the question, do all of you agree with the 8 that have spoken to us tonight? And if you do agree, you can just raise your hand. But we do have a time limit set aside for public comments of 30 minutes. We have 8 that signed up, so that's 24 minutes. So we have 6 minutes to play with on the end. If there's any questions or whatnot, I will accept those now. If anyone got a question about the public comment period, ask now.
Mr. Chairman, the lights, explain the lights. Will one light blink when there's 1 minute left to speak? I know it's nerve-wracking to come up here and you've never done it before. So remind us what, or Carla, somebody.
I'll do better than that. I will ask our assistant, either Jeff, come up and we'll go through an example of the operation of the public comment. Jeff, do you mind coming up and we're going through it?
So this is the timer, folks, right here. So I see 3 minutes showing. All right, now there's a 2 minute, it's a countdown clock, so you can watch your clock. And at 1 minute left, it'll go to yellow. And then you'll have your last 60 seconds. And the chairman is always courteous if you go over a couple of seconds to say thank you or whatever. And it'll go red at the end of your 3 minutes.
15 seconds prior.
15 seconds prior. So I know it can be nerve-wracking to come up and do this. You're kind of stepping out of your comfort zone. So I just wanted you to be aware of that.
I had said Jeff, but Jeff wouldn't get up.
Let me just say, you don't have to use 3 minutes, okay? More of you can speak if you don't use your 3 minutes.
Jeff didn't get up, but I appreciate that, Commissioner Dodd. So do we have any questions on the public comment period? If not, first one on the list is Shannon Adams Brewer. I hope I got that name right.
I am Shannon Adams Brewer. I'm hoping to set the tone for the remainder of you who plan to speak tonight. I ask that you speak with dignity, with kindness, with clarity, and with truth. I ask that you be passionate, because that's why we're all here. We're passionate about Kittrell and what our community means to us, but I also ask that you show compassion. This is not the time to turn on each other. Remember, we're here to represent Kittrell. In regards to the renaming of the Public Health and Safety Building located in our Kittrell community, I want to stress something to you. Mr. P did not remove Kittrell from the name. This is a 24/7 county-operated EMS fire station that was not given our community's name. Now, I do not know why that is. Perhaps someone on the board can explain to us why the community names are not on these buildings. This new building happens to be located on sacred grounds, as referred to on the alumni page. I've seen posts of the memories of decades past, a great snow, a great flood, stolen Christmas trees, the saving of the cafeteria, but my personal favorite is when Kittrell beat Central, because my daddy was part of that. Y'all, these memories are of a school that was located on these grounds, a school that has been gone from this location for at least 31 years. We must accept that we cannot attach those memories of our school days to this new EMS fire station. They are not the same. The same goes for the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department. All we have left of our original school, of our volunteer fire department, is that structure behind the new facility, which is still being used for training purposes. Perhaps that would be a better location for the men in the acronym to be honored, as we should probably add some names to it. We have the best memories, but this is a new beginning. This is something the 4 men in that acronym could only dream of having in this community. They would be so proud of this building. Speaking of those men, I want to explain the reason explained to me why those 4 were distinct from other men who served on the board of directors. They're not more important, but their distinction is they served in county offices, from what I understand. It just so happens that the only 4 founding members of the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department who have served in county offices have the last names to spell that acronym. You can't make this up. Do I believe we should rename the building after them? After much consideration, no. I believe that we should leave it alone. I'm here for Kittrell, not the A in the P-E-A-Y, that A in the P-E-A-Y, if he could, would be here for Kittrell too. Not for himself. He could care less if he received any recognition. However, I do truly appreciate him even being thought of in the naming of this building.
3 minutes up. I'll give you a couple more
Okay.
seconds.
I stand here before you asking for it to remain the Public Health and Safety Building. I agreed with Mr. Piercy before, if we change one, we have to change them all. If it's a simple task and not too expensive of the taxpayers, go for it. Otherwise, just leave it be. Regardless of its name, it will always be Kittrell to us.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Cindy Brinkley.
My name is Cindy Brindley, and I'm Clyde Elrod's granddaughter. Oh, sorry. I sent an email to each of you days ago, but wanted to say a few words publicly. When I was approached April 26th to write his biography, I assumed it would be for a plaque. The wording was that it would be, quote, for all the Kittrell Fire Department founders, unquote. I wasn't told of the renaming until barely 24 hours before that full committee meeting. Naming it the P Building was a shameless attempt to use the other 3 men's names. I purposefully did not attend that meeting because I did not want that building to be named anything but Kittrell for the community that it would serve. Clyde Elrod would be furious and embarrassed to be associated with this. His name is literally on plaques all over Rutherford County, but he was adamant that nothing be named after him. I have found not one person who wants this building named anything but Kittrell outside of Robert and his family. My grandfather proudly served as county commissioner of the Kittrell community for decades, and served is the key word here. A commissioner is voted in to represent the constituents of the district. If what he or she pushes to have approved is in direct conflict with the views and desires of his constituents, then service is clearly no longer the motivation and has no place in this room. This very room holds memories of Granddaddy doing one of 2 things. If there was an issue that he knew was right, he would defend it fiercely. If it was wrong, he would make his view known with just as much of that Kittrell fire. I'm doing my best to carry on his legacy and stand here today asking that you please officially name this building for the Kittrell community, putting to rest this controversy and anger from the community that Clyde Elrod loved, sadly, at his expense.
you. Next on the list is Steve Cates. Steve Cates.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm Steve Cates. I've been in this historic building hundreds of times since the 1940s, but little did I dream that perhaps my last visit here would be to request that Kittrell be, in fact, Kittrell. I was born on Cripple Creek in 1940. Never knew of any time when Kittrell was not a part of the life of our family and our community. 12 of the 18 of us who graduated in 1959 were together for all 12 years at Kittrell. It's that kind of community and that kind of school. Kittrell has been the name of all the buildings on that ground since 1880 when Mr. Pereer and Mr. Abernethy gave the land. My grandmother, Cates, finished there in 1904. My parents met at Kittrell in 1928, and on and on and on. We're here tonight, or I'm here tonight, and I think others are, with first of all, a recognition and appreciation. We appreciate Mayor Carr very much, one of my former students, for his response to our community's concerns and his veto of the action by the commission last Thursday. This item was listed on your agenda that night as the renaming of the Kittrell Public Health and Safety Building. We're also here to humbly request that your committee resolve that the official name of this building be, in fact and forever, Kittrell, and that this name be placed on the building. You may wonder why we're coming now after the fact. Luckily for us, although all of us should keep informed about what government is doing, but luckily for us, one of my former students, and perhaps the best known of all of us living Kittrell folk, Connie Vance Turner, did just what I said. She reported this news to us the very next day, immediately. There were ample opportunities for our community to have discussed this proposal and have had an input. For instance, in September, we had our annual Kittrell reunion. 150 people were there. We could have had a special meeting. The lack of input on this major decision by us Kittrell folk led about 600 to sign a petition asking for the resolution to be reconsidered. Others made hundreds of contacts, and so here we are tonight. I thank you again. I appreciate the time, and I know that any of us here would be glad to answer any questions you may have before we leave.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mike Engel. Mike Engel. Mike is on his way up, and I know him very well. We worked side by side for how many years? Long time.
Well, I'm very much out of my element, but I think this is important enough that I needed to show up tonight. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name's Mike Engel, as they said. I live in 4337 East Compton Road. I've lived in Rutherford County over 60 years, and I'm very proud of our communities, all of our communities. There's a lot of history in all of them, and the names that are associated with them. When I heard that the Kittrell Public Safety Building was going to be renamed the P Building, I was personally very devastated. I think this is totally wrong. We've got people in every community, whether it be Kittrell, Lascassas, Walter Hill, whatever. We've got people in every community that's worked very hard to develop the progress that's been achieved in those communities. And I think it's wrong to name it by a person. I mean, where do you stop? Where do you stop? You name this building this, you name that building that. Whose name do you put on it? And the bigger question to me is, whose name do you exclude? There's so many people that have done so much work. You can't list them all. If you started to try to put all the names on all the buildings, you wouldn't have any room for the bricks. So where does it stop? So I think the right thing to do is not name any of them by an individual. Let them be known by the community in which they're located. That's the right thing to do. Leave all the public safety buildings named by the community in which are located. The community has spoken. As mentioned earlier, we got over 600 signatures. That speaks volumes to me. It really does. That we got 600 signatures against this proposed change. The people have spoken. I believe as commissioners, we need to listen to the people, and they have spoken very loudly. Please leave the name as is versus some made-up acronym that coincidentally spells out the name of one individual. I think it's wrong. I really do. And with that being said, I'm going to ask the members of the community that's here tonight that feel the same way I do to acknowledge by raising your hand. All over the house. All over the house. So with that being said, thank you very much for your time, especially to all the commissioners that have returned my call, and so I could share my feelings about it, and your support in leaving the Kittrell Public Safety Building named as it is. Thank you very much.
Next on the list is Glenda Nippler.
Thank you. Again, my name is Glenda Nipper. Most of you know me by Faye. I've lived in the Kittrell community for 45 years. I am here representing myself and the Kittrell community on the renaming of the Public Health and Safety Building. After listening to much controversy in our community, I decided to go straight to the horse's mouth, so I called Robert P. As I talked to Mr. P., in the conversation, as it started, I felt that Mr. P had good intentions, as he said he wanted to honor the 4 men that started the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department by putting plaques in the new fire station, and I agreed. As the conversation continued, I asked him how we got to the sign being named the P Public Health and Safety Building. He continued by saying the committee that was set up to name these buildings were set up to make rules and regulations on how to name these buildings. But they were taking their time, so he took it upon himself to make the rules for the Kittrell community. And these are as stated. They must have served for Rutherford County, they must be deceased, and they must have contributed personally and financially to its cause. From these rules, 4 men he chose. Those men were good men in our community, and they did dedicate themselves to the Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department and our community. I asked him how he chose the name. He told me it was alphabetical of these men. I said that was virtually impossible from what he had told me. He said he took it alphabetical order and said that he took these names, and I asked him how he came up with the word PEA, why? And he told me that he used their first names. And I asked him how Robert fell first, and he told me Bob was his name. I left it at that. Our community is made up of men and women that work hard and put so much of their time and effort into making Kittrell the community it is today. When we say Kittrell, so many people come to your minds. People that are close to each other and care about each other. The Kittrell Volunteer Fire Department was made up of a lot of these people, old and young. The department functioned because of the many people that served there. The chiefs, the firemen, their families that gave their time. And not only that, their lives on the line when those alarms went off. The community helped raise money in whatever way the department chose. The community supported the department. If a name should be on that sign, Kittrell should be as it is now, Kittrell, because everyone in that community I consider a hero to the Kittrell community.
3 minutes up. I'll give you a few more seconds.
Okay, that's fine. From my understanding, the land that was first given to that was named, the last name was Kittrell, and that's how we got our name, because that land was donated. I love my community, and I love the people in our community. It's a very tight community, and I would love to see Kittrell remain on the sign, or if it's not there, to be put there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Ann Henderson. Ann Henderson.
Glasses.
It's okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Henderson. First, let me thank the commissioners that made it possible for the communities of rural Rutherford County to have a public health and safety facility. In my opinion, these facilities are an asset to all of the little communities in our county. My husband arrived at the Kittrell community in 1958, all the way from San Diego, California. He graduated from Kittrell High School the following year. Yes, he was a proud member of the class of 1959. He loved this community and died a loyal Blue Devil. The fast-paced growth and progress which our county is experiencing is expected. But we here in the Kittrell community, we would like to preserve at the very least the Kittrell name on such an important facility that will serve all of our residents. I believe that people can immediately identify and know the geographical location of this facility if it is named after the community for which it serves, Kittrell. For instance, if we have a weather situation that will require seeking shelter, it would be easier to direct people to the Kittrell facility, the Las Casas facility, the Rockvale facility, and so forth and so on. During a community emergency, every minute can make a huge difference in directing people where to get help. This is why the name of the facility needs to be easily recognizable for all residents, especially for the newcomers of this community. The P family should be recognized along with the other gentlemen associated with the P acronym for their tireless efforts. We don't want to forget about the countless other families that were also responsible for the advancement of the historical preservation of our community. Miss Mary Hall and Gilbert Brandon families, just to name a few. So with this being said, I'm here this evening to ask that the official name for this Kittrell area facility be known as the Kittrell Public Health and Safety Facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Next on the list is Michael Rogers.
So I want to first thank everybody for coming out. Before I say what I have to say, it takes a lot of nerves for everybody to come up and speak, and I really appreciate everybody doing that. And thank you to the commissioners on the second row that didn't have to be here tonight that recognize this is bigger than District 4. You heard a lot of testimony from people in this community that have some very strong feelings about this proposal. I'm going to kind of take a different stance on it. I'd like y'all to refer back to April when you met and this was first brought up. There was a comment made that this needed to be taken very slowly, that we needed to make sure that this was done well, that we needed to fully vet the people that were involved, and that we needed to understand the impact it would have on the community. There was another comment made that this board had done itself a disservice and that this should have been done ahead of time, and there should be some mechanism, some process in place so that these types of things don't happen. There was then a further comment that ultimately led to a motion that pushed this to the full committee with the understanding that there would be biographies present, that there would be a full presentation about what this was going to be. The biggest disappointment I had about that meeting was there was a question asked, what exactly is going to go on that building? And no one ever said. There was a little bit of discussion. Do we have the freedom to say it's hyphenated? It was never established. When that went to the full commission, it just made a bad situation for everybody because you then had family present. that poured out their hearts about their grandparents and their loved ones, and it forced these commissioners to be in a position where they had to stand up and object in front of those families, or vote no in front of those families, and that's a no-win situation. And I can understand how that's difficult. What I would like to see, and if I'm bold enough to say this, I would like you to suspend any renaming of buildings. How do I do that? There's potentially going to be a vote coming to overturn the mayor's veto. All you have to do is say no. You can also talk to the other county commissioners and ask them to vote no, with the understanding that we're suspending any naming processes until we have an opportunity as a property management board to come up with a policy, a procedure, a mechanism to fix this issue. Take your time, deliberate, figure out what it needs to be, what the rules, what the regulations are, what the do's and don'ts, get it worked out. And then if anybody wants to come in front of this board and make a proposal, they can do that. Lastly, I hope that you see this, that this board sees this as an opportunity. Your concern was, in 30 seconds, the attitude of this board was, we are concerned that we are moving too quickly. I hope that you will take your own advice and you will slow down and reevaluate this thing. And I hope that you see the opportunity that not only can you fix it for everybody in this room that's hurting in this community, but you can fix it for anybody else in Rutherford County, that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Next is Connie Turner, and Connie will come behind Commissioner Irvin. Yes. He decided not to speak? Are you sure? We can get a mic to you. Okay. All right. Ms. Turner decided not to speak, so that concludes the list of ones that signed up for public comments. As I stated, do all of you agree what was said tonight on the public comment end? If you do, raise your hand. Look like it's unanimous to me, so thank you. We're going to proceed on with our agenda. And next on the agenda is Facilities Maintenance Report, Director Dodd. Adam Dodd, is he in the house? Director Dodd?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'll start off tonight's report with the Walter Hill location. The project is nearing completion. It's at approximately 90% overall. The roof work, the fascia, the flashing, and soffit are now complete. The mechanical, plumbing, and the electrical finals have been scheduled for next week. The low voltage and testing remain ongoing at roughly 90% complete. Floor coverings, expansion joints are now complete. Door hardware installation also complete. Millwork, countertops also complete. The appliance equipment package is approximately 95%. I believe there's one appliance item that they're waiting on. The dirt work is ongoing at approximately 70% complete. Irrigation at 50%, and the site concrete is ongoing. And this week, I've knocked that down to about 70%. Last week at our OAC meeting, we came to the conclusion with the SEC, the architect, and we have declined to accept approximately 100 square yards of concrete. As you enter the site at the north entrance, some of that concrete was unacceptable. So that tear out has already, the contractor did not dispute. That tear out started Tuesday the 21st. In preparation for replacement. The FF&E package has been delivered. Installation is ongoing at roughly 50% complete. On May the 14th, we conducted our OAC punch list. All that information was compiled, and it was sent to the contractor on May the 17th. Our 4 weeks look ahead. The low voltage and the testing should be completed. All finals to pass inspection. The appliance package and FFE complete. Irrigation, dirt work, and final grade. The site concrete completed. Punch list complete. The owner key core installation and security completed. No new change orders have been presented to us at this time. The architect nor the general contractor expect any delays associated with the concrete repair that we previously discussed to exceed 7 to 10 days. This shifts our projected move-in date slightly. The contractor is now targeting the week of June the 10th through the 14th for a tentative move-in date. And that'll complete my report this month on the Walter Hill Public Health and Safety Building.
Any questions on Walter Hill? Okay, proceed.
There's an outline of the concrete. Everything you see there in sets 1 through 3 in the highlighted area, that is the area that we're replacing. Again, the north entrance. And I will move on to the Plainview location. Not a lot to report on. The plans have been finalized. Those plans will be submitted to the Planning Commission for review and approval May the 28th, 2024. And a GMP should be prepared and presented to the PBA on June the 6th.
Any questions on Plainview? Now proceed.
That's going to wrap up the reports on the public health and safety buildings. I'll touch on the recovery court update. That will give you an idea of the addition. There, that's the highlighted area to your lower left. The architect has now finalized the plans for that addition. Permitting is ongoing. The architect has been working with the mayor's office to establish bid dates. And I just want to remind you of the scope of work. This project consists of a one-story addition that is approximately 1,100 square foot, 3 classrooms that will transition over into one large multi-purpose room. The existing building will receive new roof, fascia, soffit, gutters, downspouts. We're looking for a crawl space encapsulation, and we're looking to add fresh air in that space to control humidity. And that completes the report on the recovery court.
Any questions on the recovery court project? Now proceed on.
And finally, Commissioner, last month we toured the Juvenile Justice Center, and we were waiting for the contractor to schedule the repairs, the DCS recommendations to the cells in A, B, and C pod. And I was just going to update you that the contractor started that work on those jail cell repairs Wednesday morning, 5/22, and he anticipates the completion of that project in 15 to 17 days. And I will follow up with a completion report next month.
Okay, thank you. I think the committee remember the tour and remember what he's talking about. Any questions? Report on the juvenile building? If not, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next on the agenda, naming of county buildings procedure. I think the mayor and the chief executive officer would like to come up and make their presentation. Before they do, I got a note from Commissioner P. that he would like to announce he planned on having a meeting at the Kittrell Elementary School with the Kittrell community upon school board approval. Go ahead, Mr. Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay, I'd like to bring Mr. Hennessy and Nick up. What we want to discuss with you this evening, and you have it on your SharePoint, is the process that we have been working on for quite some time, and it is quite coincidental that we completed it with some rather odd timing. What I would like to recommend to this particular committee, and that's up to you, is that we present you with our proposal for the naming of the building, the public safety buildings, and all public buildings in Rutherford County going forward, and that you review that, and then, Mr. Chairman, we take it up maybe for a vote at the next meeting, because this is just a framework, ideas, and this is something that I think it would be wise if you had an opportunity to review and come up with your own ideas. There are a couple of things in here that, quite candidly, I'm adamant about. Others, not so much so. But with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll go through that.
Go ahead.
So the first item is, and I'm just going to read this. If a county building is requested to be named after a person, biographical information including but not limited to his or her historical significance and contribution to the Rutherford County shall be provided to the Property Management Committee prior to any vote on a recommendation to the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners. Number 2, portions of such county buildings, meeting rooms, example, shall not be singled out for such naming. So we're asking you to preclude the naming of a room or a entryway or whatever. Number 3, after the requested building name change has been considered and a recommendation has been provided by the Property Management Committee to the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, the proposed namesake shall be presented to the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, and the individuals requesting the namesake shall be present to explain the request and answer questions. Following presentation of the proposed namesake, the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners shall take the request under advisement and place it on the agenda for the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, wherein the county mayor or his designee shall be given the opportunity to make a recommendation on the proposed namesake. Any naming of the county buildings within Rutherford County shall be approved by a majority vote of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners. Essentially, what this is saying is that after property management makes a recommendation, it goes to the full commission. The full commission then takes it under advisement to discuss it, to have that presentation made, not unlike what was done recently. But a vote cannot be taken until the next regularly scheduled commission meeting. The purpose of this is, the only purpose of this is to get input from the community that all of us represent. It gives them an opportunity to advocate or oppose it, and I think that is important. Number 3 is one of those things that I referenced earlier that I believe is very important. Number 4, the person whose namesake is proposed shall have resided in Rutherford County for not less than 10 years unless that individual is a prominent national figure. Number 5, no county building shall be named after a living person. Number 6, no county building shall be named after a deceased individual prior to the 5th anniversary of that individual's death. Number 7, no more than one county building in Rutherford County should be named after the same individual. Special attention will be paid to the names of public buildings within Murfreesboro, Smyrna, Laverne, and Eagleville prior to the naming of any county building to avoid duplication of names, which may be confusing to members of the community. Number 8, in considering proposals for the naming of a county building, the following general principles should be taken into consideration. A, whether the person whose namesake is proposed made a demonstrable and significant positive impact to Rutherford County, the state of Tennessee, or national affairs. B, whether the contribution of the person whose namesake is proposed was sustained over an appreciable period of time, and whether such person demonstrated leadership in governmental, cultural or historical affairs, humanitarian efforts, or community development. C, whether the contribution of the person's whose namesake is proposed is beneficially change the nature and characteristics of the community. D, whether the person whose namesake is proposed is a native of Rutherford County who achieved national or international acclaim in a specific field of endeavor that has reflected positively on Rutherford County. E, whether the person whose namesake is proposed is an individual from Rutherford County who has distinguished themselves in lifetime service or career over an extended number of years, bringing pride, local, regional, statewide, or national recognition to themselves and Rutherford County. F, whether the proposed namesake is appropriate and compatible in relation to the existing area and whether it reflects the values and character of the community. G, whether the proposed namesake has broad public support throughout Rutherford County. Number 9, if the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners has approved the naming of a county building after an individual, the Property Management Committee, in coordination with the Rutherford County Facilities Director, shall review and approve a proposed namesake signage and shall ensure that the proposed signage maintains cohesiveness with the overall building design existing signage. 10, in an effort to avoid confusion and for the safety of all citizens of Rutherford County, when naming any public safety building, such public safety building shall be named in reference to the location of the building, the community in which it is located, and/or the public safety agency that occupies said building. I'll repeat that one. In an effort to avoid confusion and for the safety of all citizens of Rutherford County, when naming any public safety building, such public safety building shall be named in reference to the location of the building, the community in which it is located, and/or the public safety agency that occupies the building. 11, a proposal to name a county building after an individual has been denied by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners shall not be reconsidered for a period of 2 years. 12, and finally, the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners reserves the right to remove the name associated with any county building at any time by a majority vote. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the presentation. I will be glad to take questions, and so will Mr. Hennessy and Mr. Christensen, who helped draft this document.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have any questions? Any questions? Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question, but I have a comment, maybe a long one. I appreciate the time that y'all took working on this. But it's the guidelines for naming a county building. We had the public comments tonight. What I got out of that was don't name it after somebody. All this, these guidelines that are proposed tonight, that's all it talks about, is naming it after somebody. I can tell you right now, I don't need to take this under advisement. The way this is written, it's well written, but it goes against everything we've heard from these people from the community that we're talking about tonight. I'm totally against this the way it's written. Maybe one sentence in here that I agreed with. I don't agree with naming it after somebody that has never lived here just because they're a national figure. We have plenty of people here that are just as important or more important than national figures. They're hometown people. And if you were going to name it after somebody, it should be somebody from hometown. But I'm totally against that based on, I've always thought this, but I've always gone along with naming something after somebody because that's the way it's always been done. But after going through this, and listening to these people, well-spoken people, not used to speaking, spoke better than I do. But I hope I can get my point across. We don't need to be naming any building, county building, after a person or a person's family, a family name. I think it just goes against everything that these people took their time to come and say. Goes against all of it. There again, I appreciate your time working on this. And y'all didn't know what the people were going to say tonight, so I'm not bashing you for anything. I'm just saying take it back and just leave naming after somebody or their family out of it. Let's name the buildings for what they are. It's a fire department, it's a county court clerk building, it's whatever it's built for. And I think that was mentioned in here, and that was the one that I was talking about that I agreed with. Name it after what it's built for. It's a public safety building is what we're talking about now. Thank you.
Any other committee member? Commissioner Phillips, do you have any input on that?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a quick question?
Okay, Commissioner Irvin.
How does this work with schools? Does this apply to schools too, or how does it work with schools?
School board has their own policy in writing regarding this. I don't have that with me. If you'd like it after this, I can get it to you, but this would not apply to any school building. So the commission wouldn't be naming a school.
If I could interject just a little bit, Mr. Chairman, the school board passed some type of an regulation or an ordinance, I'm going to guess between 15 and 20 years ago.
You're right.
To not name any schools after a person, but it be individually named after a community or some significant finding, such as Rockvale or Kittrell or Laverne or Smyrna. I think they have they've made an exception to that when someone has donated a significant contribution to that, such as Whitworth, if I'm not mistaken. But they do have a policy in place against naming school buildings after individuals.
They do have a policy in place, but Commissioner McMurray, he attended a meeting with representatives from the school board. Am I correct? And they did name a building after some people. They named a building, I guess it's alternative building on Church Street. They named it after the mayor of Murfreesboro and also Miss Woods. That was done, I guess, about a month ago now. But they did come in and vote and do that with the exception of their rules. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, what we're trying to do, Nick and Eric and I, we were trying to put together a framework by which this particular committee and ultimately the commission could put together a process by which we name our public buildings. We've been working on it quite some time, and it was because there wasn't a process that we most recently kind of got ourselves in a bit of a spot. Personally, as the mayor, and after talking with others, we have many public buildings in the county. Some of them hold particular significance in the communities in which they reside than others. And we made that distinction in this particular document. I believe that our public safety buildings are one such building. I think because of their unique role in the rural part of the county, the farming part of the community, where those communities have long in history names, those kind of things are important to preserve the culture, the values, the principles of Rutherford County. And I'm adamant about that. And that's why we carved out specifically the public safety buildings, because the public safety buildings, ladies and gentlemen, are not fire halls. That's where the firefighters are. That's where the EMS is. That's public health and safety. Pettus, we have a food bank there. It's a storm shelter. Pettus, we had 150 people as a tornado shelter recently. So it's much more than just a fire hall. And the three of us recognize the uniqueness of the public safety buildings. And I felt like and believe even now that's a special naming. However, that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that we don't have some members of this community who have demonstrated significant sacrifice and dedication and devotion to the community that this body and the full commission shouldn't maybe consider after a serious time, maybe the naming of a facility. And so you have, with this document, that prerogative. It doesn't require you to do that. Quite the contrary. There is no requirement here to do anything. What we are doing is hopefully putting a process together so that this kind of thing isn't politicized, and it so easily can be. And we're trying to take that out so this commission can make an easy decision based on the input of an entire community. And so that's all we're trying to do. We're not requiring every building or any building to be named anything. We're trying to give you some guidelines so that you can work with discretion and wisdom, and I have all the confidence in the world that you to do that, and that's what this document is trying to do. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other committee members? If not,
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Go ahead, Commissioner Phillips.
Let me just say that whatever we adopt, if anything, can be undone by the very next county commission. It can totally be undone. So I think these are guidelines that have the opportunity for forward thinking into the future. Another potential guideline that I think that we should consider is just not naming any county-owned and occupied public building in the name of an individual. And I don't, us, and we can put the wording to that, but I'd like for us as a committee to consider that along with this one at our next meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillips. We have other commissioners here, and out of courtesy, each one of the commissioners that are visiting us tonight, given the opportunity to speak. And I will go with, I'm going with Commissioner Piercy first. Reason being, he started a couple of days ago to make sure that he was here and make sure that he get to speak tonight. So I'm going to start with Commissioner Piercy.
Chairman, members of the committee, Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all tonight. I fully understood everything that was on the mayor's paper that he read. Of course, I'm not a member of your committee. I can't make a motion, but I can make a suggestion. If you're not a rural county commissioner, you have no idea how strong the people in a rural district are. Pettus Reed has a fire department, a new one in his district. It's rural. I have two in my district, Las Casas, Walter Hill, and the one at Milton is also served by Las Casas. They're as strong or stronger than Kittrell. You wouldn't want to go to a battle with any of the four communities. Their heritage runs deep. There's generations, 4 to 6 generations deep in all these communities. I'm in agreement with what the mayor has presented. Item 10 helped ease my mind. The only suggestion I would make to this, if you're uncomfortable with what the mayor has presented, address the issue that's really here tonight, and that's naming one of the public safety buildings after an individual or a family, and take that motion with you to the commission floor or bring it to your next meeting about the 4 buildings that are being built. 3 are built, 1 is on its way to being finished, to exclude those 4 county buildings being named anything other than the community they sit in. You could then move forward with our other public safety buildings that are not in quite as rural areas, but I think my suggestion would be address what's at hand and then use the process you've crafted to continue with other buildings that we have that's a little different than this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. Next, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I'll have to echo pretty much what my commissioner from over in Las Casas has said here. And committee, thank you for allowing us to speak tonight at your committee like this. But I feel like I know every one of these individuals from Kittrell, because beginning Friday morning about 8 o'clock, I was sitting in an awards program at Rockville Elementary for my grandson, and this side of me vibrated like you wouldn't believe. And I didn't dare reach for it because I had my daughter on this side, and I wasn't about to grab that phone. But by the time I got to my truck, I had a line of phone calls coming from you. And I saw how you felt about this. I saw your emotion. I knew what you were talking about, and I knew all about Kittrell. You know, back in 1960s, I was a part of that Rockville community, and I can remember every time Kittrell would show up at Rockville to play. We not only had to play you and fight you on the floor, we always fought you outside the gym as well. But those were 2 communities that believed in what their communities were all about. I have been involved with these public safety buildings going all the way back to when we first come up with the idea of these. And today I pulled out our plans and what we done with this, and I pulled out exactly the plans, and I saw where it said the Kittrell building on it and the Rockville building and all these sort of things. So to all of us that had worked on these, that's what they've been to us. And I understand what you're saying here, and to tell you the truth, and the mayor might not say this, but the reason number 10 is here is because of Steve Piercy and myself wanting this. Because we aggravated him to death. We knew what he was doing here, and we wanted it all brought together. But we feel that these buildings do not need to be touched other than the fact that they belong to the communities. These are something that is given back to the communities to rebuild. You know, when we decided to consolidate schools, those communities lost something when the schools left. But now we have given you something back there that we feel like you'll feel proud about. They're, just as my fellow commissioner said, they're not just a fire hall. They have within them, they have the name health and safety. You have an ambulance service there. You have an office for a sheriff's deputy there. The day that we dedicated that Kittrell building, if you were there, you'll remember we pulled out a large 11 by 14 colored picture of your fire department standing there with an engine. And some of these individuals we talk about as far as help with that station and bringing it around are hanging on the wall inside that building right now. Beautiful pictures in there. And we dedicated that day to the volunteer fire department there. We did that at Rockville too. We talked about the volunteer fire department at Las Casas. But I think it's important that we make sure that as far as public safety is concerned, whenever you tell somebody about that area, it's the Kittrell Public Health and Safety Building. We're going to be doing more as far as health is concerned too. We've already had flu shots there back in the fall, if you can remember that. We gave away free flu shots there. We're going to be doing this in the other buildings as well, with more things like that as well. But I just think it's important that we keep that to the name of the community. And I think that is vital to what we do. In committee, I appreciate any help that you can give us in this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Commissioner McMurray, do you care to say anything?
No, sir. I yield my time back to you. My vote on Thursday reflects how I stand on this.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner Harris, do you have anything to say? Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Hope, do you have anything to say?
I would like to say that I appreciate the rich history, and I appreciate how your community is coming together on something that's very dear to you. And as Commissioner McMurray said, my vote reflected my feeling on this.
Anyone else? If it's not, back to the committee. Committee, do you have any input, motion on what was presented? I would entertain a motion at this time.
Move that we take the proposed resolution under advisement and consider next month.
Okay, we got a motion to take it under advisement and consider next month. We got a second by Commissioner Davidson. Any other discussion?
Let me also make another motion if I possibly could.
Another motion? No. Let's take care of one at a time. Any other discussion? Commissioner Johnson?
Well, I already voiced my concern on this, and I think everybody knows probably what I'm going to say. If this comes to our committee or it gets passed, my vote will be no on this as it's written. If it has anything to do with naming after somebody or somebody's family, it'll be a no for me. I don't have to take it under advisement to know that. The people have already spoken, and they're not just speaking for Kittrell. I assure you that our other constituents would feel the same way. They do feel the same way. And I'm from Smyrna, not Kittrell, not Lascassas, but I guarantee you my feelings are just as strong for the community, for this whole community, Rutherford County. That's why I'm called a Rutherford County Commissioner. I'm not just a Smyrna Commissioner. And I try to vote the way my vote affects this whole county in a good way, a positive way. That's what I did with this naming. I don't think it was a renaming, it was a naming of the building, because I don't believe Kittrell is on there to start with. So it's not a renaming, it's a naming, and I stand corrected if I'm wrong. But I do have those strong feelings, just like everyone else. I don't have to live out in the country to be country. I grew up on Sullivan Street, which most people never heard of because they're not as old as I am. And that street no longer exists. It's a part of Smyrna, but it's a part of Rutherford County. And this mic's in and out. But my vote will definitely be a no. And I'll ask you all to support taking out anything as far as naming after somebody. I don't have a problem with naming it after the community, but not, and I know Kittrell is a family name, but it's a community name. That's different. But I'll stand firm on not excluding anyone again. And that's what has always happened when you name a building after someone. You have many other well-deserving or even more deserving people that have put in more time and more effort, but they never got recognized. So I will not vote that way again. I will not vote to name a building after someone or the family.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Any other committee members like to say anything? If not, call the roll on the motion.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Chairman McAdoo?
Yes. Motion passed. So between this meeting and the next meeting, got something to add?
I do. And Nick,
Phillips?
you may need to chastise me again for bringing this up. And I'm used to it, so I've got pretty thick skin. But I'd like to move that this committee not consider naming any building, any Rutherford County building, after any individual until a guideline, a proposed guideline is adopted and accepted. So is that a proper motion?
As the committee knows, the mayor vetoed a resolution that was passed last Thursday. I think it will help to not have any conflict or confusion to allow that veto process to conclude itself at the next commission meeting. I'd also say, Commissioner, that such a motion at this point, I believe it was kind of temporary in nature until we had guidelines in effect, may not be necessary because if somebody were to bring a request between now and next month or the month after, I think the commission's decision would be not to name the building based on where this is going. So that may not be necessary at this point. That's just my 2 cents.
You're the county attorney. Your 2 cents means something.
Depends on who's asking, I think.
It will if I go to court for a law. Do you understand, Commissioner Phillips? Was that a sufficient answer for you?
I was comfortable if that's what he would say, but I just wanted to make sure.
Okay. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dodd?
Yes, sir. If Mr. Christensen could explain, I haven't encountered a veto before, so you alluded to it a moment ago. If you could alert us, what's the process?
Sure.
Next?
Yeah. So the commission passed the resolution, and within the requisite time period, the mayor vetoed that resolution. The law requires that by the next next commission meeting, that the commission take some sort of action on that veto. So what I envision is that that item will be an item for on the agenda, and that in order to override the mayor's veto, the statute allows for the commission to do so, and it has to be by a majority of vote. It's not a 2/3 vote. It's just by a majority vote that the commission can override the mayor's veto, which would bring the original resolution back to life. Somebody would need to make a motion at the commission meeting to override the mayor's veto, and that would have to be seconded. I believe it'd be subject to discussion, and then at that time there'd be a vote, and if the vote was by a majority vote, the mayor's veto would be overturned. An alternative to that is that there's either no motion made, or if a motion's made and there's no second, then the motion doesn't come before the body for a vote, and if there's no action or vote taken on the item in that instance, the mayor's veto stands and there's nothing left for the commission to do. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Any other business to come before property management tonight? If not, entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Johnson is bringing up next month tour, and that is a good one. I thought we had discussed before that we wanted to go to the nursing home, but you know, I didn't put it on this agenda based on the activity with the committee tonight, but I thought that our next tour would be the nursing home. And that's, will be on the next month agenda tour. Okay.
Chairman, you're correct. We did request to go tour the nursing home, but we never could get it lined up because of whatever excuses they had not to allow us over there. They're basically too busy, or we needed to wait, and that's where it fell.
I think the mayor is going to answer that question right now.
Well, I wasn't going to answer that question. Mr. Chairman, can you repeat the question, and I'll try.
The question is that we, for the last couple of months, been wanting to tour the nursing home.
Okay.
And so on the, our next tour scheduled by this committee was going to be the nursing home.
Okay.
And we want to put it on next month agenda.
On the June calendar?
Correct.
So let me get with the administrator, and I will work out those details. So if you or somebody on the committee will contact Rachel, we will get that scheduled.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I got a question from one of the audience members. Chairman Phillips, can you announce the next county commission meeting, its time and the date, please? I've had several ask me when the next commission meeting is, please. Thank you.
Come on, Mr. Chairman, let's go. Let's go, Commissioner Phillips. June 13th?
We have 2 meetings scheduled for June. The regular meeting will be Thursday, June the 13th at 6 p.m. Thursday, June 16th. I'm sorry, Thursday, June 13th at 6 p.m.
Did all of you understand when that next meeting is? I think I got one hand up in the rear. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Any other discussion, any other business? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you for showing up tonight, and it was very, very good.